Story 1. The condo parking dispute. I purchased a condo with a parking spot, but I was told to pay $175 per month, or my car would be towed, even though I legally own the spot. I bought my condo brand new in 2014. It was a small building, approximately 32 units on 4 floors, in a prime location, and I paid a fair amount for my unit. When I first moved in, we had a condo management company that did a fine job. Unfortunately, late last year, we discovered at the board meeting that someone now owned over 50% of the condos. This person, Emma, had repeatedly tried to pressure me into selling my condo to her. She offered less than what I paid, and I wouldn't be able to find an equivalent condo in the same area for her price. Emma essentially voted by herself to dissolve the condo board and elected herself as the sole person in charge of everything. Today, I received a letter from our new condo overlord, Emma, stating, "By March honest, our parking spots are no longer available. If we want to keep our spots, we must pay $175 per month. Failure to do so will result in our cars being towed. I have paperwork from when I bought my condo. Parking spot number 3C was included in my purchase. When I pointed this out to Emma, I was told to, more or less, go away. And if my car is there on March honest, it will be towed. I have a single day to figure out what to do. Since this comes into effect tomorrow, should I seek legal advice immediately? Relevant comments. You definitely need a lawyer. The condo board must comprise at least 3 owners and act in the best interests of all owners. There are provisions in the Condo Act to force a board to do things or not do things. In one case, the board was ordered to personally pay legal costs and the costs of restoring a parking lot to its original condition. I'm meeting a lawyer tomorrow for a consultation. I managed to get 2 other owners to join us in fighting this. However, I found out that the board does have 3 owners. One is Emma's husband, Liam, and the other is someone related to her. Neither Emma nor Liam lives in the building. Emma has done almost no maintenance, and the person responsible for cleaning the general use areas was let go. 2 of the 6 washing machines have been broken since Christmas. If my car is towed tomorrow, what legal recourse do I have? According to my ownership documents, I own spot number 3C. I've managed to get 3 other people in our building to see a lawyer tomorrow. To clarify, I have a title to my parking spot, which, from my understanding, confirms I own it. We have approximately 18 parking spots, and there are more tenants than spots available. I have nowhere else to park. Street parking is limited to an hour, and finding a place is like looking for a needle in a haystack. I found out today that Emma isn't the sole overlord of our condo board. The other 2 board members are her husband, Liam, and a relative. Liam owns a towing company. Apparently, someone is moving into the building tomorrow and has paid for my spot. If I'm not gone by midnight, Emma is towing my car. Update. I want to thank everyone for the advice. Several tenants and I consulted a lawyer who promptly wrote Emma a stern letter, kindly suggesting she back off. Since that letter, she has retracted all her statements about parking no longer being ours. Additionally, one of the tenants tipped off a Toronto newspaper. I haven't seen an article, but in response, Emma seems to have changed her mind. She now wants a policy on maintaining the building. We have someone who comes every day to perform cleaning and maintenance. Sadly, despite these changes, I'm planning to move out as soon as possible because I feel she'll likely change her mind again. On the night, Emma threatened to tow people's cars. Another tenant and I recorded the tow truck driver attempting to tow my neighbor's car. After confronting the driver about illegally trying to tow someone's car, he immediately left. We passed that evidence to the lawyer. Story 2. Always overlooked even after years of supporting my parents, they still chose my sister over me, even when my son was in the hospital. My son, Ethan, was in the emergency room. I texted them, but my mother replied, "We're busy with Sophie," before saying something cruel about Ethan. So, I terminated all their house payments, vehicle loans, and credit cards. I stood in the hallway of my childhood home, my gaze drawn to the framed images on the wall, my sister Sophie's graduation, her wedding day, and the birth of her first child. My parents beamed with delight in every shot. Any indication of my personal successes was conspicuously absent. A familiar tightness developed in my gut. After 35 years, you'd think I'd be over it. My mother's voice came from the kitchen. "Laura, is that you? Come give me a hand with these dishes." I halted. I hadn't come to wash dishes. I had come to set boundaries. When I entered the kitchen, My mother was hurriedly arranging an appetizer dish for Sophie's party, of course. Sophie had recently been promoted to department manager at a nearby bank, a position she obtained through my father's connections. "Can you finish these while I get ready?" she asked, drying her hands on a towel without waiting for my response. "Your father picked up the wrong crackers. Sophie prefers sesame, not plain." I nodded and took her place at the counter. Same story, different situation. My phone buzzed with a message from Rachel, my ex-sister-in-law. "Did you tell them yet?" I hadn't. "How do you tell your parents you're cutting them off financially after years of support? How do you explain that their only grandson recently completed a family tree project that didn't include them?" The front door slammed shut. Heavy footsteps approached. "Laura," my father said, barely glancing my way. "Where's your mother?" "Sophie will be here in an hour." My chest tightened. "She's getting ready." He nodded once before disappearing into the living room. Without another word, I slowly arranged the crackers, recalling how many times I'd stood in this kitchen, waiting for acceptance that never came. Despite my full scholarship to USC, my promotion to senior analyst, and the birth of my son Ethan, nothing could divert their attention from Sophie. She had always been their darling child, the one they had after years of heartbreaking miscarriages, the one they'd long given up on having. I was merely a trial run, a practice attempt. I'd spent my life trying to earn what she so easily received, their admiration, attention, and pride. When David walked out on me for a co-worker 3 years ago, I expected my parents to step up. Their daughter had become a single mother and needed help. Instead, they questioned whether I was responsible for the marriage's demise. Had I focused too much on my career? Had I neglected my role as a wife? It wasn't them who offered support. It was David's parents, Rachel and Michael, no longer my in-laws, but my true family. They picked Ethan up from school, cared for him on weekends when my job required travel, and showered him with affection. Meanwhile, my parents were too absorbed with other matters. Until 6 months ago, their sudden shift caught me off guard. They called weekly to ask about Ethan, invited us for Sunday dinners, and offered to babysit. I wanted to believe it meant something, that they'd finally recognized what they'd been missing. Then Sophie got promoted, and everything became clear. They hadn't changed. They needed money. My mother returned to the kitchen, wearing a new shirt I had paid for. "Did you finish the appetizers?" "Sophie will be here any minute." I tilted my head and slid the tray toward her. "We need to talk." Her expression shifted from delight to anxiety. "What is it? Can't this wait until after the party?" "It could, but it shouldn't," I replied, my voice firmer than expected. "I'm stopping all financial contributions." Her face lost all color. "What financial contributions?" As if she had no knowledge, as if I hadn't covered their car loan for 5 years, the roof replacement last summer, the property taxes, or their Hawaii vacation. My hands trembled, but I pressed them firmly to the counter. The car loan, the credit accounts, the home insurance, everything. She stared, her lips opening and shutting, searching for words. "Why would you do this after all we've done for you?" A bitter, humorless chuckle escaped before I could stop it. "And what exactly have you done for me? We raised you. We made sure you had food to eat." At the very least, she was claiming credit for basic parental duties. When David left, who supported me? When Ethan was sick and needed follow-up appointments, who got him there? Who stepped in when I was promoted? Who even acknowledged it? They were never there. My father strode into the doorway, brow furrowed. "What's going on?" My mother turned to him, her voice rising. "Laura says she's cutting us off financially after everything we've done for her." His face darkened. "Is this about that situation? We already explained it." "It's about everything," I said, years of disappointment and neglect flooding out. "It's about Ethan calling Rachel grandma because she treats him like one. It's about you skipping his birthday for Sophie's vacation. It's about me needing emergency surgery and you refusing to pick up your grandson because Sophie had a dinner. 3 weeks ago, I had appendicitis and was rushed to the ER, barely conscious from pain. My only clear thought was that Ethan was alone at after-school care. I called my parents. "We're at Sophie's promotion dinner," my mother said, displeasure in her voice. "Can his father get him?" David was in Seattle with his new wife. I could barely speak through the pain. "We can't leave now. Sophie would be devastated. Then the final blow, he's just so much work, sometimes a burden. My child, their grandson, a nuisance." Rachel, however, responded instantly. She dropped everything, picked up Ethan, and stayed with me in the hospital overnight, rearranging waiting room chairs to make a bed for him. That moment showed me the difference between duty and love, blood, and true family. My father's voice pulled me back. "You're overreacting. We couldn't leave Sophie's dinner. You know how much it meant to her. More important than their grandson alone and scared. More important than their daughter's emergency surgery." "I'm done," I said quietly but firmly. "No more financial support. No more pretending. You don't get to use me when it suits you and discard me when it doesn't." My mother's face crumpled, not with regret but with calculation. "The car payment is due in a few days, and your father's medication, Sophie's new salary could cover it. Or they could tap into their retirement savings, which they'd hoarded while I funded their lifestyle. Not my responsibility anymore." The front door opened, and Sophie's cheerful voice rang out. "Mom, Dad, I brought champagne." That was my cue to leave. I grabbed my purse. "Laura, wait," my mother pleaded. "You can't do this to us." But I could, and I was. I passed Sophie in the hallway, her face puzzled. "Laura, the first didn't know you were coming to my celebration." I wasn't. I had come to withdraw my final emotional investment, the last traces of care for people who never truly saw me. "Congratulations on the promotion," I said sincerely. Sophie's accomplishments were never the issue. Our parents' refusal to value both their children was. Her expression flickered with apprehension. "Thanks. Are you leaving already?" I gave a quick nod, unwilling to trust my voice further. Let them explain themselves and face the consequences of their actions. The drive home felt surreal, like drifting through a fog. Tears welled up, not from grief but from relief. The weight I'd carried for years, seeking unconditional love, was finally lifted. Ethan was at Rachel's home. My former mother-in-law sent photos of him covered in baking flour, genuine joy in his eyes, happiness in every shot. Love, real and unvarnished. Family isn't about duty or shared blood. It's about the people who stay, who accept you for who you are. 3 months passed. No calls, no manipulative messages. Silence. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my phone displayed my mother's name. My finger hovered over the decline button, but curiosity won. I answered. "Laura," she said stiffly, her words measured, "we need to talk about this situation." The situation was their financial struggles without my support. There's nothing to discuss. A pause, then her voice dripped with contempt. "Sophie refuses to help, saying we need to manage our own expenses." The venom was unmistakable. "The car was repossessed yesterday, and the mortgage is 2 months late. Not my concern anymore." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and a small part of me was, because I was raised to feel their well-being was my responsibility. "You can't just abandon us. We're your parents." The connection was biological, not emotional. They had never fulfilled their parental roles in ways that mattered. "I have to go. Ethan has soccer practice." "Laura, don't." I ended the call and blocked the number. Across the kitchen, Ethan worked on a school assignment, a family tree. "How's it going, kiddo?" I asked, leaning in. At the top, he'd drawn Rachel and Michael, labeled Grandma and Grandpa. Below them, Mum and Dad under my name and David's. And at the bottom, himself. No Sophie, no maternal grandparents. I gently asked, "Is this everyone in our family?" He nodded confidently. "These are the ones who love us. Simple, profound, and true." That night, after Ethan was asleep, I sat on the back porch with a glass of wine. A breeze brushed my skin as I reflected on inheritance, not money or property, but the emotional legacy passed through generations, the beliefs instilled about love, worth, and relationships. My parents inherited their own traumas, their flawed belief that love must be earned, and children owe their parents rather than being cherished. But cycles can break, patterns can be rewritten. Ethan would inherit something different, the unshakable belief that love is not a transaction, that family is chosen, and that being present is what matters most. Rachel's phone buzzed with a message. "Michael's making his famous chili this Sunday. Are you and Ethan coming?" I smiled as I replied, "Wouldn't miss it." This was my legacy now, no guilt, no duty, just choice, connection, and love given freely. For the first time, I felt truly rich in what mattered. Looking back, the pattern was clear, the constant pursuit, the endless fight, the desperate need to be seen. My worth had always been measured by their validation, or lack thereof. Every milestone was a silent plea. Notice me, care about me, value me. My childhood room's walls were once covered with academic certificates, spelling bee medals, and math competition trophies, all gathering dust while my parents eagerly attended Sophie's soccer games, dance recitals, and mundane school events. When I earned a full scholarship to USC, my father merely glanced at the acceptance letter. California? That's too far. And who's supposed to help your mother with the house? Not Sophie. She was too busy being the center of their universe. I left anyway. I worked through graduate school, built a career in finance, and became independent. Then I met David, charismatic, confident David, who had a warm smile and the uncanny ability to make me feel like the most important person in the room. His family welcomed me instantly. Holiday dinners where my opinions were valued. Weekend barbecues where my thoughts were heard. His mother, Rachel, called just to check in. His father, Michael, taught me how to change my car's oil. It was unfamiliar, this effortless acceptance, this genuine interest in me. When we married, my parents found reasons to complain about everything: the venue, the date, the food. Sophie, my maid of honor, seemed distracted during the ceremony. My parents left early, citing Sophie's early appointment the next day. David's parents stayed until the end, helping clean up and embracing me as if I'd always been part of their family. Ethan's arrival should have changed everything. He was their first grandchild, yet they visited once, for less than an hour. My mother awkwardly held him before quickly handing him back. "He looks like David," she said, as if this excused her emotional distance. Rachel and Michael, however, were different. They brought home cooked meals, offered to stay overnight during the exhausting early weeks, and held Ethan for hours so I could rest, shower, or feel human again. When David left, sending a text instead of facing me, Rachel found me curled up on the bathroom floor, sobbing. Rachel packed a bag for Ethan. Rachel took us into her home as I grappled with my marriage's collapse. My parents' response? A single call. My mother's tone was almost smug. "Men don't value women who prioritize careers. I warned you." As if my ambition was to blame, as if I deserved to be abandoned. The divorce was grueling. David fought for assets but showed little interest in custody. He wanted freedom from responsibility. Rachel and Michael were caught in the middle, torn between love for their son and disapproval of his choices. "You're still family," Michael assured me with unwavering certainty. "That doesn't change. Ethan is our grandson. You're his mother. The math is simple. Simple for them, unthinkable for my own parents." As legal fees mounted, single parenthood, full-time work, and court hearings overwhelmed me. I turned to my parents, asking for help, just temporarily, until one stabilized. My father reluctantly wrote a small, begrudging check. "Don't count on this, we're not a bank." But when their car broke down the next month, they called immediately. "Can you cover this? Just this once, until we're back on our feet." That once became countless times. Their demands grew. My boundaries shrank. Deep down, I clung to a foolish hope that if I gave enough, sacrificed enough, they'd finally care about me the way they cared about Sophie. Pathetic, transparent, desperate. But I couldn't stop, not until the crisis, not until He's Such a Burden revealed the truth. It was never love. It was always a transaction. My financial support bought their fleeting attention, never their devotion or genuine care. That realization broke something inside me, but it also set me free. I no longer needed to prove my worth. I already had love from Ethan, Rachel, and Michael, from friends who cared, colleagues who respected me, and the family I built, not the one I was born into. A week after leaving my parents' house, my phone rang. Sophie's name appeared, an unusual event. We spoke maybe twice a year, our conversations polite but distant. "What did you say to Mom and Dad?" Her tone was sharp, defensive. "They're spiraling over money." My response was straightforward. No more financial help, no more enabling. They have their precious favorite. She can step up now. The silence was heavy. "They think you're being cruel, that you're getting revenge for the past." Was it cruel to stop pouring myself out for their sake? Was it vengeance to hold them accountable for years of emotional neglect? "I'm not punishing anyone," I said. "I'm just done pretending." Sophie sighed, a sound both weary and familiar. "They're never going to change, you know. They've always been like this." A rare acknowledgement, a shared understanding of the roles we were assigned before we had a choice, her as the cherished one, me as the overlooked. "I know they won't change," I replied, "but I have." Another pause, then, good for you. Two simple words, perhaps the most honest thing she'd ever said to me. Months after cutting financial ties, I understood what true freedom meant. Not just freedom from obligation, but freedom from seeking approval from those incapable of giving it. My worth was never tied to their recognition. My value was never dependent on their acceptance. I was always enough. They just couldn't see it. Ethan ran into the kitchen, snapping me out of my thoughts. "Mum, Grandma Rachel says she's making spaghetti tonight. Can we go now?" Grandma Rachel, a title earned not by blood but by love, presence, and countless small acts of kindness. "Of course, buddy. Grab your shoes." As he darted to the door, a wave of gratitude washed over me for this bright, resilient boy, for the family we'd built by choice, not duty, and for the profound wisdom born from struggle. Sometimes the greatest lessons come from pain, the resolve to break cycles, to be better, to create something new. My parents showed me the kind of mother and person I refused to be, and for that, strangely, I was grateful. As I drove to Rachel and Michael's house, Ethan chattering happily beside me, something settled within me. The journey from craving acceptance to finding peace, from seeking validation in others to discovering it within myself, had come full circle. I carried the weight of inheritance emotional debts, ingrained patterns, stifling expectations for too long. But I'd let them go. What remained was lighter, purer, and entirely mine. Family, love, belonging, not in transactions, not in duties, not in desperate bids to prove my worth, but in a deliberate, intentional choice, grounded in the quiet certainty that I was finally where I belonged.